Chapter 10. The Good News. Finally, on day 20, my waiting game came to an end. However, I had just about given up hope for the day. It was after 4:30 in the afternoon, and I still had not heard anything from Dr. Leckman's office. I spoke with Mark on the phone and told him it looked like we would have to wait yet another day. Suddenly, the most glorious thing appeared on my caller ID. Dr. Leckman's number. I had not been that happy to see someone's name on my caller ID since Mark and I were dating. Just as I was about to answer the call, I felt my old friend Panic start tapping on my brain. Even though I had endured such a painful waiting game and was looking forward to some answers, I wasn't sure that I wanted to face the reality that this conversation would bring. I waited until the last possible moment before answering the call. "Hello," I said tentatively. "Desirae, Dr. Leckman here. I have some very good news for you." "Really?" I squeaked. "Please say that this has all been a big joke and I really don't have cancer. That would be the best news ever." "Yes," he replied. "The gene testing came back negative. This is really good news, and it means that you are an excellent candidate for a lumpectomy. When would you like to schedule that procedure?" Let's see. How about yesterday? Does that work? No? Okay, I will settle for Friday then. Finally, 20 days into this nightmare, I felt like I could take a giant leap forward. I hung up the phone with a plan, which is what I had been craving. I was not completely out of the woods yet, but I was definitely going to take the small victory of the gene test being negative. Although there was still a good possibility that we could be dealing with more than just one tumor or the presence of cancer in my lymph nodes, I was going to take this good news and run with it. I didn't know how many other good news phone calls I was going to get. Day 22 dawned bright and clear. It was a good day for surgery. I was ready to have the lumpy invader taken out of me so I could move on with life and put this whole cancer episode far behind me. After checking in at the surgical center, they sent me to radiology so that I could have an isotope injected into my tumor site. That was the first step in a procedure called a sentinel lymph node biopsy. Through use of an ultrasound, the radiologist injected a metallic isotope into my tumor. It would take about an hour for the isotope to travel from my tumor to my lymph nodes. While in surgery, my doctor would sweep a metal detector type of device over my lymph nodes to determine where the isotope was. That would allow him to take only the sentinel lymph node, or the lymph node where the cancer would have traveled first. The benefit of that procedure was that instead of making a large incision and taking out a huge cluster of lymph nodes, Dr. Leckman would be able to make a much smaller incision and take out a minimal number of nodes. This would greatly reduce the risk of getting lymphedema, which I will explain later in the book, and leave me with smaller scars. When I was done in the radiology department, I was taken to a waiting room back in the surgical center. While waiting for my turn for surgery, my phone kept buzzing. The day before, I had issued my blog followers a challenge. Pink Friday, it would be called. I had grand visions of the beautiful scrapbook that I would make when my journey was through, which I still haven't made yet. And to do that, I would need pictures. I encouraged everyone to send me a picture of them wearing pink. I figured that for sure my family would participate, and maybe even a few of my closest friends. I was astonished to see that with each buzz of my phone, another picture of someone dressed in pink was being sent to me. There were pictures of my family and close friends, but I was amazed to see that there were also pictures of acquaintances, people that I hadn't seen since high school, friends of friends, and coworkers of family members. The list went on, and I was overwhelmed with all of the love that was being sent to me in digital form. Excerpt from my journal. I have over 30 pictures so far, and I know that I will be getting a few more. It is very humbling. I cannot believe all these people love me so much. People that I have not seen in so many years, and people that I have never even met. I feel so blessed to have all of these wonderful people in my life. End quote. When the time came to head back to surgery, I kissed Mark goodbye and ventured down a hallway that, unfortunately, I would come to know very well. I climbed up on the surgical bed and tried to calm the zillion butterflies that were flying around in my tummy. The nurses bustled about the operating room, prepping me and the instruments that Dr. Leckman would use to remove my lumpy invader. I recall focusing my gaze on the glaring surgical light above me as I slowly drifted off to a land where cancer was not an issue. The next thing I knew, I was in the recovery room chatting it up with the nurses. As soon as I was stable, Mark gathered me up and we headed home. I spent the rest of the day in my bed, watching TV and nodding off every hour or so as the anesthesia worked its way out of my system. The next day was spent lounging around and taking it easy. I felt good as long as I kept up on my pain medications and had an ice pack handy. Everything was going relatively well until I took off the bandages and had my first look at the new me. Excerpt from my pink journal. I didn't think I would have a problem with how my breast would look. After all, they just took out a small tumor, right? Once I removed the bandages, I was able to see the incision and everything for the first time. Wow, was not expecting such a big incision. It's probably a good 2 inches long at least. I guess this is good. Dr. Leckman says he usually has to make 2 incisions, one for the tumor and one for the lymph node removal. I was also able to see that I'm missing some plumpness on the top now. I really didn't think it would bother me, but it was kind of a shock. However, I have to say Mark gave it an appropriate nickname, Frankenboob. He can always make me laugh. Love you, honey. End quote. Now that the lumpectomy portion of this journey was complete, it was time to do some more waiting. Dr. Leckman sent the tumor and lymph nodes to the pathology lab. About 4 days after my surgery, I saw Dr. Leckman's number on my caller ID again. As I reached over to answer it, I started pleading inside my head. Please, oh please, let it be another good news phone call.